So today, Jackie and I are here. We have a few different projects ongoing through this project, but we're really interested in developing an incentive program. And this idea of an incentive program here is pretty broad, and we're pretty open-minded at this point in time. So the main goal of today is we really want to brainstorm and kind of pick each of your brains on what's worked. It would be best within the unique community health center setting in your past experience, if you have any experience with really great incentive programs. So kind of this is a systems question, obviously. And so our main goal, like we said, is designing an incentive program. We're kind of leaning towards a staff incentive program that will really engage them in connecting patients to quit resources. And again, we're really looking to draw on this group's wealth of knowledge about what's worked really well in your experience. Our current system, it's great to follow up on this quitline conversation. Our current system, as Linda went over, we are trying to implement e-referral, which would really help us track quitline referrals much more closely. But currently, a lot of our referrals for quit resources aren't very easy to track. And so we've been trying to engage providers and clinical teams in referring to the quitline and to our kind of local Department of Health contracted services and other counseling services. But each patient obviously needs different resources for their quit journey. And so we're having a tough time developing an incentive program that really motivates staff, but also helps connect patients to the resources that are best suited for them. The next question was, what was our vision of what this might look like when it's done? So right now we're kind of hoping this will be a defined incentive program. So it'll have a start and an end. And again, we've tossed around a few ideas, but it could look like either a focused effort to really promote referral to a single underutilized resource and really kind of educate staff on that resource. It could look like a competition to reduce rates of tobacco-dependent patients who have not yet received any type of intervention per our EMR. Or it could look kind of like a reward program for staff who complete specific learning or education benchmarks. So like, say your team gets points if one of your team members successfully refers to the quitline or something like that. We have thought about the possibility of a patient incentive program where we're really rewarding patients for cessation efforts. But the rules around that seem very complicated and they kind of differ by state. And that type of incentive program would end once the funds are spent. So we felt incentivizing staff seemed a better approach, but we're still definitely open to options. Linda really talked about a lot of our recent changes, which is the next question. We are really educating providers on quitline services and local counseling services, as well as internal services. And we believe this is increasing referral to quit resources, but again, it's been a little difficult for us to track. And then the data we have is that currently only 67% of our patients who are identified in their chart as tobacco users have received a cessation intervention. So that's where we are right now, and any feedback would be fantastic.
Great, thanks Carla and Jackie. This will be fun. Let's talk through this. This is great. So first, any clarifying questions from anybody? Nobody? Okay, so no clarifying questions. I think I have my one clarifying question, Carla and Jackie, for the data you have on the quality measure of the patients identified as tobacco users who receive an intervention, do you all share that number with your staff?
So we don't really. It's part of our UDS data that's kind of published among staff to a certain extent, but I wouldn't say it's been highlighted in any way.
Yeah.
And it also, we practice team-based care here at Lancaster Health Center. So that's another component of this incentive program. It's really often fun to incentivize teams. And they often love getting a little competitive among teams. So we could definitely split that last number up by teams, which would be an interesting kind of measurement tool to make it quantitative.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. So your EHR or your reporting structure, you could divide it up by team. Have you done that with other measures?
We have done it a bit for colorectal cancer screening, but we really split it up by site. We have 4 larger sites. And so we did do it in that way. The splitting by teams would be a little manual and go by the assigned PCP for each patient, but it wouldn't be, it would just be kind of a sorting and separating. But we don't do that very often.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. I was asking both to just understand some of what's possible, and sometimes seeing the number is a way to, you know, foster a little friendly competition. And sometimes, I mean, in my own clinical life, I know I always feel like I'm doing everything for everybody exactly right on time all the time. And then I see the data and I recognize like where I'm, you know, I can improve or build a better system with my team to do that better. So those are just my thoughts on sharing the data. Sometimes knowing where you are helps get you motivated to move forward. So that could be cool. Any other clarifying questions for Carla and Jackie on either their current process or sort of what their ideal state is and what questions they're asking?
Hi, this is Bob from NCHPH. Just a quick question about, you know, what you guys have done so far. Have you thought about cash or offering training incentives or conferences that might be enticing to some of the staff?
So I think that the idea of conferences is very interesting, kind of some additional continuing education time or money. We have thought a little bit about kind of paid time off incentives. That idea has been mentioned, and we've definitely thought about financially incentivizing teams, but struggle to kind of figure out what would be, which aspect or which approach we want to take to the incentivizing. In your experience, have financial incentives among staff worked really well?
Yes, but really not so much because people are so, you know, hell-bent on getting the cash. It just has become kind of a fun thing. You know, people just want to be number one. So, you know, I've seen people offer anywhere from $100 to $500, and usually done it more to a team than to an individual. And it seems to work. I mean, you know, we've done similar things for patients, you know, around the quitting side, you know, and done it more of a lottery system than done a straight like $100 or $500 for a quit, more along the lines of, you know, let's put $1,000 together and then we'll see who quits and then pick the winner. It just kind of, it brings interest and a little bit of excitement to it and makes it kind of fun.
And I think we definitely thought about incentivizing patients, and it's a really interesting idea, but I think we got a little overwhelmed digging through kind of the rules surrounding financial incentives for patients and how that could be implemented and what exactly is allowed in Pennsylvania. So that's where we kind of rerouted to staff incentives, but it would be interesting to be connected with anyone if anyone's really familiar with the patient financial incentive rules.
Is there a specific rule in Pennsylvania?
From what I saw for Medicaid patients, which is largely our patient population, it seemed like there are caps and that it should be in some way related to incentivizing the care, because it can quickly kind of get mixed up in referring to particular resources and financially incentivizing your patient's choice for where they pursue care. But that's the limit of my knowledge.
Have you talked to your state Medicaid office?
I have not.
It might be worth a try, because they usually try to find a way if they can.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good thought, Bob. It might be worth a shot. In other kinds of cancer control interventions work, we have worked with lots of health systems around the country with small patient incentives to complete like a cancer screening. And there's not that much literature out there about like whether patient incentives work to complete a cancer screening. There's some anecdotal evidence and maybe a paper here and there. I just don't think it's studied that much. And it certainly needs to be, something kind of like small and not big. But we've seen some success with using, things that would help with address structural barriers like transportation, like a gas card or something like that, to help kind of complete the process to help patients get to their screener or come back. So I don't, small things like that. Sometimes a small grocery gift card, some of those things. It sounds like maybe there's some other federal regulations that Lindsay was saying in the chat to just look into. The other thought I have on the like what's allowed if there's concern is well, I don't know. Maybe your HRSA federal program officer might be helpful. They may not know all of it, but they would be a good resource to just check things out. Not to say that you would use your HRSA dollars, I'm not suggesting that, but if there's some rules around the program requirement side of your HRSA dollars and then how that interfaces with other dollars you're using, they may have some ideas or just be helpful to navigate some of that. But we've seen it, we've seen it work in other kinds of cancer control interventions for sure on the patient side. On the staff side, the competition thing, a little friendly competition, other things, this is around like, sort of building up your office champions in your improvement project. In this case, we're talking about increasing tobacco cessation, so that's the goal. Other things, like just team like lunches, a way for like the team to win a pizza lunch or some other healthy lunch. Pizza maybe isn't our favorite, although I love pizza, especially on a Friday. Something about pizza on a Friday makes life a lot better.
There's calcium in that.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what I mean, like some kind of like lunch or other experience, or maybe coffee in the morning, something like that. We've seen that work. I don't know, any of our ACS health systems managers who do a lot of like one-on-one work with health systems, anybody want to share any experiences you've had with incentivizing teams or staff with doing these kind of interventions?
Hi, this is Amy Scar with UW.
Oh, yeah, no.
Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay. I was going to mention, and you had given some suggestions that I was going to say too, food is always a big draw, but the competition is key. So we did a study a while ago, and it was competition between clinics, but it would work definitely within the teams or with providers, that sort of thing. But it really motivated them. They would see every week or every month kind of where they sat among the others based on referrals to the quit line. And we awarded then pizza parties. So big motivator, the food's a motivator, offering coffee if they get, some specialty coffee for the team that's doing the best that month, that sort of thing. I'd also say setting some kind of tangible goal or benchmark goal so that they know kind of what to work towards. So if that's the most referrals or the highest % referred, or increasing that number of patients that haven't had a referral before, that sort of thing. So something for them to work towards, and maybe specific numbers that way, and then can kind of go off of who's doing the best or has the highest number, that sort of thing. But competition is a big one and seems to work within the healthcare settings that we've been working with as well.
That's great. Thanks, Amy. I love the idea of, so the UDS measure, we sort of skimmed over that, but for those who are less familiar with UDS, so there's a quality measure that's part of the data set that Lancaster Health and other health centers report annually. It includes this measure that's about, the definition is the number of people who are identified as tobacco users and who are offered a cessation intervention. So it's good. But Amy's giving a lot of great ideas around like some intermediate measures to getting there, like the process of what those interventions are, like the number of referrals to the quit lines, and some things that you could track internally that might show more progress more quickly and be a little bit more directive toward how you want your workflow to be in the ideal state. So those are all really great ideas, Amy. Thank you.
I'd also add
go ahead. Yeah, please.
Just with then sharing out that feedback. So I don't know if there's, I think Linda had asked about if they're receiving feedback about any of the referrals. So just making sure that staff are getting feedback periodically about how they're doing, so that they can, again, compare if they're doing that competition. But just periodic feedback is really helpful to kind of see where they are within the pack, see how they're doing as a team, how they're doing individually, and that can be really motivating for them as well.
That's great. Yeah, thanks, Amy. And then Jamie and Denise, who are part of our ACS regional staff who work a lot with health systems in lots of different cancer control areas, agreed with like the food incentives, and then some other ideas around just a plaque or a trophy. So we've seen this really work where it's not necessarily something that you would think becomes a big like wanted thing, but like the trophy traveling around to different teams or being sort of like a, some kind of board to highlight the success of a team or a certain site can really be motivating and exciting and just add some fun to the daily stuff that can be less fun sometimes. So we've seen that really work too. And the frequent feedback and making that visual, like some kind of display or dashboard for people to see, can really help too. Other ideas? We have about a minute left to discuss. Are there any other ideas, or Carla and Jackie, any other questions you'd like the group to respond to?
Yeah, this is Frank. I just wanted to mention to Carla that I know, if she doesn't remember, I'm in Pittsburgh, so I've obviously done a lot of work with the state. Dr. Kelly, who's the medical director for Medicaid, is very, very interested in everybody quitting. So I would contact his office and find out exactly what you can and cannot do through him. I think he would be more than happy to work with you. In that respect. And number two, whatever you decide to do as an incentive, I just kept trying to think about this since we got the email a while back from a different perspective, like from a marketing perspective rather than from a public health perspective. And I kept going back to maybe having some kind of event where you announce all of this, teaming up with a local restaurant or some, maybe there's breweries and distilleries all over the place now. So, some event space or somebody that might be passionate about this quitting, where you could bring the staff in and have a little party and announce what all this is going to be. That it would make it more important. It would make it more important in their minds and kind of add a little bit of a different type of element, do it in a different way than we normally do. So might kind of want to challenge you to maybe think about this like if you were marketing some product rather than a training or or what we typically do.
Frank, did you say Dr. Kelly, the Medicaid office?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
That's for the note. Yeah.
Okay.
We can.
Lynn in Pennsylvania. Finally, I figured out how to do this, I guess. Anyway, we are working with Dr. Kelly, actively working with Dr. Kelly, and have been for almost 2 years. So I can work with Carla and see what's possible.
Good.
Awesome. That's great. That's really great. I love that. Look at the power of community. Love it. Learning community. That's great. Thanks, Lynn. And your sound was great. So whatever you did was perfect. You did a great job, and we could hear you. So that sounds great. Sounds like you guys got some great ideas. Carla and Jackie, thanks for bringing this problem forward to brainstorm around together. Any last questions or thoughts for the group?
Linda put something up that Sharon and the California team had a journal supplement on Medicaid incentives for quitting. So Sharon, I'll email you about that and circulate that information to the group. And thank you for bringing that up, Linda.
Perfect. That'd be a great resource for everyone. Perfect. Great.
And just
okay.
just the one other thing, I wasn't sure if anyone had any information on. It sounded like the group with UW had it sounded like a trial, if there was any like evidence on which one of these was most effective, or similar situations that have been like demonstrated to be effective.
Yeah, and it was actually focused on Medicaid members within the clinics. So it was incentivizing the patients to engage in treatment. So it did go to show that financial incentives do increase engagement in treatment and also increase quit rates. We didn't do any analyzing of the clinic incentives to make referrals. Just anecdotally, we saw that if there were some type of data shared with them, and then also those incentives, just pizza or food, that did help them motivate them to engage in making those referrals, or increase that a little bit. But yeah, it was focused on the patient side of things for the study that we did.
Yeah, this is Linda. I wanted to suggest that the Pennsylvania team maybe post something to NAC's listserv and find out if any of the quit lines have experience and have success stories in this area.
Great, that sounds great. So we have several, I think, different ideas. So we know food motivates humans, so that's good to know. That motivates me for sure. Some maybe small other kind of financial incentive for a conference or CME or something like that for a team that's high performing or making progress towards your goals. Patient incentives can also work, and it sounds like there's a couple pieces of evidence in the literature to share, including the California paper. And then Amy, we'd love to circulate your paper if you can give us, if that's available. That would sound like it'd be helpful for everybody too. And then the nice connection between Lynn and Carla with Frank's suggestion of Dr. Kelly's support of quitting smoking, that will be helpful to just find out what's possible, or what, if there are restrictions around how to work with patients specifically. And then gathering any other ideas from the quit line through the quit line listserv, if Pennsylvania is interested in that. That was Linda's great idea.